Hello and welcome to Greenpass Gaming's Midweek Catch-up. I am your host Flap and welcome to our show. And as you can probably see, we have 3/4 of the GPG crew with us tonight. Hello chaps, how are we doing?
Good evening, all. Yes, I'm very well, thank you. Hope you're well.
Excellent. Yeah, all good. It's been a while since all four of us have been together.
Well, we're still missing one.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So hopefully we'll all get to the Avengers or GPG crew will assemble fairly soon with all four of us. But until then, we're going to have some fantastic chat tonight with Luke and Pucks. We've got 3 topics to get through tonight, and I thought, to be honest, as we kind of approach June and perhaps the Xbox Game Showcase, things might start tailing off news-wise and get a bit quieter, but how wrong can you be? It's been quite a busy news week this week, and there's quite a few Xbox-type topics to sink our teeth into, so we're going to crack on with those. We've got 3 topics, and the first one is around Xbox's potentially lost opportunity with regards to Marvel games. Second one, Gamepass Burnout. There's been some things going down on Twitter recently around Gamepass Burnout. And the last one was one that I think hit today or yesterday, and it's around Xbox X and S and PS5 Pro, or potential launches of those machines, but we'll be digging into that and scraping at the surface and try and find anything that we can out of these topics. Chat, if you're listening in the chat, thank you very much for being here. If you're listening after the show, please do like and subscribe. Don't forget you can comment as well. If there's anything that we say that you disagree with, just let us know in the comments down below. That's absolutely fine. And also, if you want to carry on the conversation after the show, because these conversations do carry on, please join our Discord, link in the description below. So, without any further ado, let's crack on straight with topic number 1, shall we? I think it was earlier in this week that it was actually revealed that Microsoft were offered a potential partnership with Marvel, according to an executive, Jay Young, of Marvel, and they were offered a deal back in 2014 after Marvel and Activision had pretty much mutually parted company after a deal that they had together. I don't think the Activision games were too hot, too brilliant. I don't think the sales were too good, so I think they both decided to sort of part ways and try it on their own. And one of the amazing things that came out this week, that actually Marvel approached Xbox to see if they wanted to partner up and work with Marvel titles. And they were turned down. Microsoft actually turned them down, stating that they wanted to work closer with their own first-party IPs, which has amazed some, and it's led to lots of speculation on Twitter and on the internet. So I think I'll come to you first, Luke, if that's okay. Was this a bit of a surprise, and was it the right move for Microsoft to make in hindsight?
I don't think it was a surprise within the context of the time. You know, if you look at what Microsoft were doing first party wise, and just in terms of how many studios they had, I don't think they had any resource to be able to make these games. Now, they could have gone out potentially and, roped a developer in, but it was also around the time, where seemingly the budgets were pretty dire for that division. So, and I think they were just trying to focus on, stalwart franchises of their own, like Halo and Forza, Gears, etc. The usual, what we say. So I think, in hindsight, it was an understandable decision, I guess, because they just weren't in a position to do it. Longer term, it's had some ramifications in a way, in the sense of obviously they haven't had any exclusive Marvel games on their platforms, and you've seen through PlayStation the massive success of Spider-Man, and obviously Wolverine coming now as well. So I think not surprising, but I think they'll be disappointed to some extent that they couldn't have done it back when they had the chance, because it would have been something good for them. But there's nothing to prevent them going out to Marvel now and stuff and trying to do a similar deal for a different franchise. But I just think that Microsoft probably even now aren't really looking at it as something they want to do. I think they just want to keep pushing on with their own IP. Lots of studios, lots of IP, and I think Marvel are probably very happy as well with how they're performing on PlayStation. So they're probably just focusing on that for now. But who knows what the future will hold?
I'll tell you one thing that this has done is it has given us the perspective of where things were in 2014 compared to right now. And like you say, I mean, my God, this is gonna sound funny because I know there was a lot of sort of stick and press around the Halo, Gears, and Forza kind of memes. It's the only 3 IPs that Xbox had. And according to the last 3 releases, it's possibly the only ones they're going to have in this sort of 2022 if Gears does pull something out of the hat for Christmas launches in sort of a Marcus Phoenix type collection. But actually, yeah, when you pull back the curtain, when you look at all of the IP that Microsoft now have compared to 2014. It's actually an amazing journey that they've been on. So, I appreciate we're kind of coming from the perspective of a huge dose of hindsight and stuff. But Pucks, do you think Xbox are kind of kicking themselves after they've seen what PlayStation and specifically Insomniac have done with the Spider-Man title?
I don't think so. No, and I kind of mirror what Luke said really, in that. Maybe they did a bit. Maybe they thought, if only we was in the position then as we are now, then maybe they could have done something. They might have, I wouldn't be surprised if there was many thoughts along those kind of lines. But ultimately, nothing that you can change, right? So I can imagine they're not spending too much time mulling it over. But even then, I don't think it's a massive loss by any means. I know there's criticisms about some recent releases from the Xbox side of things, but at the same time, there's also a lot of new things to look forward to, a lot of new IPs coming out, which a lot of gamers are really excited for. And I think even considering how big Marvel is on its own, I appreciate. I'm yet to play it, I have to admit, but I appreciate Guardians of the Galaxy is really good. But at the same time, I do kind of feel like a lot of almost movie tie-in like games, even though I know this isn't directly that, but those kind of things I think I still feel like quite a niche market. And the same with Spider-Man. Like arguably it's super popular and it's done super well on on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, and it obviously helps sell units, especially being the one of the release games for the PS5, right? The Miles Morales version. But again, I do feel like they feed a very specific niche of people that are into Marvel and superheroes. I'm pretty sure there's so many people out there who don't give a toss about wanting to swing around a Spider-Man and therefore probably not play the game. So I think a lot of people are just looking forward to those new IPs. I don't think it's a massive loss in the long term. I don't really think they're kicking themselves, because I think, again, we know that Xbox have a lot of really cool and interesting looking IPs coming in the nearer and we're going to assume longer term as well, especially with the showcase happening in a week and a half away. Is it 2 weeks away?
Yeah, about that.
So I think there's more to look forward to than to kind of really worry about this having been a problem. I don't even if Microsoft did have it, I don't think much would have arguably come out of it anyway.
Well,
so
I mean, there's a couple of things, isn't there? Even if Microsoft were to have taken up the offer from Marvel, we wouldn't necessarily have still ended up with a fantastic Spider-Man game like we've got on the PlayStation. So there's always that. But had we have ended up with a fantastic Spider-Man game, it makes you wonder how the Xbox One generation might have kind of changed or have arrived at the new generation slightly in a slightly different place. But it's interesting that you said, Luke, around the money side of things, because from memory, I think back in 2014, Insomniac had just finished Sunset Overdrive, which was an Xbox exclusive back at the time. And so, Insomniac were probably struggling, looking for their next project potentially. Do you think it was a financial thing? Because obviously, you think about Sunset Overdrive, it's not a million miles from Spider-Man anyway, kind of traversing a city and that whole kind of feel and genre. Do you think it was a financial thing that Microsoft just didn't want to go to at least Insomniac with it to see if they were up for it?
Yeah, I think so. I think I think it was documented around that time that they just they weren't being given budgets for big new projects, essentially. one of which would have been a Marvel property. I mean, I think the Spider-Man thing probably came. I don't think when Marvel pitched working with Microsoft necessarily that it was based around Spider-Man, although I'm sure that was, one of the things that Marvel had at their forefront, because it's effectively the most popular, comic character in the world that they own. And I think probably Microsoft may have been interested on some level, but clearly not enough to go and front the cash for it. Whereas I think for Sony, it just made a lot of sense that they had worked with Insomniac really closely anyway over the years on Ratchet and Clank. They're now freed up. They've got nothing. They probably had stuff to do, but they can take on a massive project. If you're Insomniac, you absolutely jump at the chance to make a Spider-Man game and, do it justice, really, not have it just be a crap movie tie-in or some kind of cheap low budget thing, but have it be an amazing game. And I think Jay Ong of Marvel said that they wanted to go out and beat Arkham. That was their aim, because that was the gold standard of comic book games. And I think in a lot of ways Spider-Man does beat Arkham. I mean, they're both absolutely amazing. So mission accomplished, really, for Marvel. And for Sony, they made a ton of money. They sold an insane amount of copies, and it's a successful, as I say, Spider-Man. I mean, comic book movies, Marvel movies, they are the highest grossing movies in the world. They're not a niche. They are the dominant form of cinema, effectively. And if you can translate that into a game, then you're making a lot of money, and that's what Spider-Man did. So, and I expect Wolverine will do really well as well. So, but I don't think Microsoft will regret it. They just couldn't do it. Like, if you can't do it at the time, then it's nothing to regret, really, because it just wasn't in their capability to actually go out and do it at the time. Or if it was, they just weren't interested. So
it's interesting because I think Phil Spencer was just in the infancy of his reign at that point, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think as well, they had a lot more issues to worry about than getting a franchise game out there. They had to really go back to the drawing board and think about, what does the platform mean? What value can we offer? How do we differentiate ourselves? How do we win consumer trust back? I don't think a Marvel franchise game would have done particularly much for them. They had bigger fish to fry, way worse problems than that sort of stuff. So I think it was probably low down on the agenda.
Who knows? They might have even tried to crowbar in some kind of Connect functionality. So thank God that didn't happen.
Yeah, Spider-Man swinging through New York.
Exactly. Imagine doing that on the
grip
camera.
Out. Yeah, exactly.
We've got a question from Scott Pucks.
Yeah, so Scott says, it says the but in there is because he's saying about how most movie tie-in games basically sucked before 2014. But Scott's question saying, but a genuine question, when did games based on movie IPs actually get good? I really some half-decent Star Wars games, but generally they had a reputation of being bad until Spider-Man. I countered this a tiny bit by saying that Toy Story 2 on the PS1, a lot of people I know it sounds bizarre.
That's niche.
No, it is, but it actually has a bit of a cult following. A lot of people are really liking it, and it's all kind of come to light again. A lot of people call it one of the best movie tie-in games ever.
Sorry, hang on. Toy Story 2 on the PlayStation 3.
On PS1.
Oh, PS1.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's coming to the new PlayStation PS1 classics.
Well, there's your subscription sorted then.
So it's been given a bit more. It's been given a load of light recently. A load of people saying that, oh my god, this is one of the best games ever. Well, obviously it's not, but you know what I mean. It's a lot of people are remembering that it's actually a really good movie tie-in game. And then arguably, Spider-Man 1, the Spider-Man games on the PS1, I remember a load of people really seem to like as well.
Yeah,
so I mean, it's a Spider-Man thing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Sony and Spider-Man have a close relationship anyway. I mean, the font on the PlayStation 3 was the same as the Spider-Man font, wasn't it? So there's a close working relationship there. What do you think, Luke? What do you think what was the turning point? Was it Spider-Man?
Well, I don't know. I don't know, because there's a when we say movie IPs, Spider-Man and games of that ilk, they're not really based on movie IPs. They're just based on a comic IP. And you can either do a movie tie-in on those games because they have movies, or you can do something a bit more faithful to the original material of the comics, or do a hybrid of the two and really just focus on making a good game based on the IP of Spider-Man in this case. So I think the first comic game to really be successful was probably Arkham. To really be an exceptional game based on a comic IP. And Spider-Man, obviously, the 2018 Spider-Man, or whatever it was released now, isn't based on the movies. It's an entirely new story and creation. So, I think over the years there have been some decent movie tie-in games that also related either to comics or Star Wars. Star Wars has had a lot more of them. I mean, if you go back and have a look, Knights of the Old Republic, early 2000s, probably one of the best RPGs ever made based on a film IP. So, that was probably the first really great one. But there may be ones before that. I think Spider-Man solidified that kind of the first Marvel game to really hit that spot of being an actually great game on its own.
So Attributes Games in the comments as well says that they remember the PS3/360 Wolverine game. Apparently it was a ton of fun. But again, it kind of falls in line with what you were saying, Luke, about, it's arguably a comic book character rather than... Although that game, was that based on the movie at the time? Or was that just a character-based thing?
I can't even remember now. I remember playing it, but I can't remember.
Attributes Games also mentions about the PS2 Lord of the Rings games being quite good. Because were they directly based on movies to obviously some? I think they
were. Yeah, they were quite heavily based on the movies actually.
He's put on here Toy Story is a masterpiece, and he's not going to hear any other words against it. Fair enough. I'll have to. I never played that. I'll have to take.
Well, you can try it soon when the service comes out. So
here's one for you. What's the best film based on a game?
The best film based on a game.
There's not many, sadly. Yeah.
Tomb Raider.
Best film based. No.
When's the new? When's the new Uncharted?
Sonic the Hedgehog's done really well.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
That's in fact probably Sonic.
Wow, that'd cheer up BMG. Yeah.
Probably Sonic. I don't think I've seen quite a few actually, but they've all been terrible. So Silent Hill, that was terrible. The Max Payne film with Mark Wahlberg, that was awful. I haven't yet seen Uncharted, so I mean, clearly it's quite beloved because it's been very successful. But I don't know.
It's quite divisive though between the gaming fans and movie critics, though, isn't it?
It's weird,
I mean, you're going to get that anyway. But
people expect, is it Nolan North, whatever his name is? Like a particular, I can't remember his name. Maybe that is him. There's some actor they thought he looks like Nathan Drake, and they've gone, oh no, this is a prequel to how he becomes Nathan Drake. So that's kind of justifying why they use Tom Holland. But we had this discussion a couple of shows ago, right?
We did.
How he's arguably too close to still being Spider-Man to have done the role. But hey, who am I to say? Oh, Scott says, did anyone like the Resi films? And Ash Reviews Games also says that they generally loved Mortal Kombat 1995 movie.
Who was in that? I can't remember who was in that. Who was in that? Can't remember. Let us know, Ash, if you remember. Oh. Yeah.
I think the Resi films, I think maybe the first one of the Mila series was okay. And then after that, they just kind of became really bad. I also saw the recent Resi film, which is pretty bad.
Is it?
Albeit it's quite enjoyably bad. And it's fairly faithful to the games, which was quite nice. So
that's pretty cool.
It's interesting you bring up about game-based films though, because I'm sure I read today about apparently it's floating around. Let me look it up. That there's going to be a Horizon movie.
Yeah, TV series. I think it's TV series, wasn't it? Horizon, God of War, and something
Gran
else.
Turismo.
Oh, okay.
Gran Turismo, apparently.
Oh, you're not joking. I thought you were joking.
No, this is an actual article. Apparently they've got... No, actually, Sony confirms Horizon, God of War, and Gran Turismo TV shows are in development.
Well, I mean, I guess, I mean, if Sony have these IP, I guess it kind of makes sense for them to actually stop, shoving stuff over into the film kind of media side of things. I mean, historically, they've never really worked out particularly well.
Yeah, but Gran Turismo, was that just going to be like a Need for Speed knockoff?
Yeah, I was going to say, is that a Need for Speed thing?
Well, you've also got Ghost of Tsushima, a film being made.
Oh, was that confirmed as well, is it?
That I can
that's
see.
confirmed.
Yeah, I can see that. That would kind of make... Because, there's a fairly decent story to that and the whole samurai thing. I can see that.
Horizon, a good one. I think that's been done in partnership with Netflix. Right. Netflix, that one. God of War has been done in partnership with Amazon Prime. Gran Turismo, don't know. But, Bizarre. But it makes sense. They're looking to get the brand out there more, and get these to become even more household. Obviously, we got Last of Us TV series in production as well. So
I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I absolutely adore The Last of Us as a franchise. I really do. Like I say, I've got very strong opinions on the second one, and like I say, it's not so much about the first 10-15 minutes of it. It's the last half that I take issue with. But there we go. That's a different story. We're still yet to have that conversation, Luke. We'll have to do a show on that.
I suspect. Yeah, definitely. I suspect the Last of Us TV show will probably do very, very well, not just commercially, but critically. The kind of caliber of actor and writer that they've got on that is ridiculously high, being done by HBO, massive budget. So I think that will do very well.
Yeah, do you think... it just makes me wonder how they're going to pitch that, because obviously we've got 1 and 2 and the story kind of completes on some level. Makes me wonder how they're going to crowbar in, or where they're going to kind of, insert the story.
I mean, we don't know how many seasons they're going to do or anything like that. I suspect it will fairly closely follow the first game, but I'm sure they'll do changes. I'm sure they'll mix it up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, going back to the original topic, I did have a question, and this is a bit of fun, really. If Xbox had taken up the offer and they wanted an internal studio to do it, who would have produced the best Spider-Man game from Xbox's internal studios in 2014? Which, from memory, is Mojang, Coalition 343, Turn 10, Lionhead. Was there anyone else? Let me know if I've missed anyone, chat. Could Coalition have done a Spider-Man game? What would that have looked like?
That's a tough question.
I think that'd be the best choice, wouldn't they?
I argue they're probably the best choice.
Most reliable out of that. Most reliable and have experience on third-person games. So
yeah, that's true.
Probably them.
And graphically very talented as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you say Lionhead, I immediately think of how could Peter Molyneux potentially mess up a Spider-Man game, but I'm sure there's many ways.
Well, again, he'd probably make it a Kinect game like Milo. Who could forget Milo?
True.
Who could forget Milo? Still trying to forget Milo, I think.
Ash Reviews Games in the comments says, imagine if Microsoft bought Insomniac after Sunset Overdrive and then got them to make a Spider-Man for Xbox.
I mean, it's documented that one of the reasons that Sony bought Insomniac, and although it's one of the reasons, I would assume it's a relatively small reason, but just how brilliant and how successful Spider-Man was. And the only reason I say that is because Insomniac are a fantastic studio anyway. You don't necessarily need a Spider-Man to want to go after Insomniac. But the fact that they did do that, and it was a fantastic game, and it really is a fantastic game, I do love it, just clinched the deal. So, things could have been very different, like you say, had some certain decisions been made. Like I say, Phil Spencer was still in his infancy. I don't think he'd schmoozed the higher executives in Microsoft and had actually pitched to them where he wanted to take the Xbox brand at that point. So it's just probably bad timing on Xbox's part, I'm guessing. But yeah, things could have been very different. But just, like I say, it opens up some speculation around what the Xbox One generation could have like had they had another massive IP like Spider-Man. But
well, Scott asked the question. Scott respins your question actually, asking, rather than Spider-Man, what Marvel/DC franchise would you pick with any Xbox studio they currently have? Brackets including Activision Blizzard. Ash Reviews has already come back in and said that they'd like to see a Blade game, possibly.
I don't know
if you could, any particular Marvel or DC franchise. You think? if they could.
I'd love to see a decent Deadpool game. There is one. There is a Deadpool game, but it got pulled for licensing issues, I think. I don't think you can buy it anymore. So, and I actually got the game after this had happened, so I had to go into a local store and get a second-hand copy of the disc. And it's a really good game. I really like it. It's a bit clunky around the edges. It needs some polish, but the humour and stuff, and it's really kind of on point. And I think, I love Deadpool as a franchise, and I think lots of other people do as well. And it seems to be a little bit of an underutilised franchise in some levels. I guess it's limited in some way, but because the stories are kind of play second fiddle almost to the actual action and what's going on in some regard. But yeah, I'd love to see a Deadpool game. I think it'd be pretty cool. Who would make it? Who would make a Deadpool game? Crikey.
Asking the real questions.
Yeah. Ooh, I don't know. Let me have a think about that one. Yeah, we'll go on. Let's open it up. Who would make the best Deadpool game out of all of the current Xbox studios, including Activision Blizzard?
I think, I don't know. I can't help but feel that because it's Turn 10 doing Fable, isn't it? Is that right?
Playground.
No, sorry, Playground. Yeah. In a way, seeing that they're doing something like Fable, I know we don't know anything yet, but it's just the fact that there's the possibility and a massive opportunity there for something great to come out of it. And I can't help but feel with almost giving the IP to someone who hasn't made a type of game like that before, and seeing again from just a teaser that looks quite visually appealing from that point of view. It's like, well, do you chance giving it to someone actually a bit left field, someone who you don't know what they would do or do something completely different, to the fact that actually, because of the fact they are green to a particular genre of game, would they actually whack it out of the park, rather than just say sticking to their own specific genres?
I think my choice would actually be for a Deadpool game would be Machine Games.
Oh, Machine Games. Okay.
Because if you play Wolfenstein, the humor is very irreverent, like Deadpool is. It's very silly. True. It's over the top. Really point, lots of gore. Lots of gore. Yes, they predominantly known for first-person shooters, but they're making Indiana Jones. I doubt that's going to be first-person. Yeah. So I think they'd be almost the perfect studio to do that type of game if you wanted a studio. Or really left field, id Software, because again, Doom Eternal, gory, obviously first-person shooter, silly kind of humor, tongue-in-cheek, fourth wall breaking. It's all Deadpool stuff. Yeah. So
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Wow.
So one of them, probably Machine Games.
Wow. Well, what Marvel games would you want to see be made?
I think Ash nailed what I would have picked, which was Blade.
Okay. You love Blade, yeah.
Yeah. Love Blade. And I think, it would just make an awesome IP for a game.
That's quite
cool stuff.
It's quite dark and gritty, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd probably give that like someone like Ninja Theory.
Oh wow,
be really good to make that kind of game. Experience in third person stuff. They can make it very dark. I think that'd be a good choice. More Blade, please.
How about someone like Arcane?
I don't know what they'd. I guess it depends on what they'd make, wouldn't it? Like, what Marvel / DC IP kind of suits their style. I mean, I think all of them could. I mean, I'm sure all of them, if you gave them, just said, here's the catalogue of Marvel IP, here's the catalogue of DC IP. Think about it, a game you could make. They would have tons of ideas about what they could do. So any of these studios, they're supremely talented. So,
it would be fantastic.
I think it's fun.
It would be, like you said, it'd be fantastic to do that, wouldn't it? Just to see who would do what.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Blade's a good one. No, Blade is a very good one, actually. Pucks?
I'm arguably going to be a bit boring on this one, but I would love to see a decent Iron Man game. Oh, because I know there was an Iron Man game that came out of 2006, 2007 or something, which I personally remember being pretty trash, for perfectly honest. I don't remember it being too good, but I'd love to see a decent Iron Man game in like a similar kind of play style to something like either Spider-Man or the Arkham games.
Yeah,
like
it's very
to be able to develop that character and the story, and like again, not from a movie, but make it its own original thing. Like maybe go through a new origin of how he becomes Iron Man, and just the idea of potentially out walking around, potentially pretending you're Tony Stark at one point, and being able to press a button and maybe all the parts jump on your body, and you like jump up in a fancy animation and whiz around the air or something like that.
That'd be pretty cool. Have you played any of the Lego Marvel stuff? That's pretty cool.
No, I haven't. I've got. Okay. I know on PC through the Epic Games, like free games you get every week. A couple, good, maybe a year or two ago now. I've got the Lego Batman games, 1, 2, and 3 on there. I just need to have the time to play them. There's too many other games I'm playing at the moment. My backlog is the biggest I think it's ever been. So it's priorities.
Yeah, no, I get that. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you. I mean, that's kind of taken us down a bit of a rabbit hole. Yeah, like I say, I think, hindsight's a powerful thing. We're all experts in hindsight. I did actually quickly run a poll on what other people's thoughts on this were. Was Xbox turning down the Marvel offer in 2014 a good thing? It stayed 50-50. There's only 35 results, but lots of people say no. I want Marvel on Xbox, and like you said at the top, Luke, that could still happen. That's it's not out of the.
Yeah. Out of interest, what was your vote on that? I voted definitely. I don't think it was a bad thing.
Was Xbox turning down the Marvel offer a good thing? I put yes. I think it was a good thing that they turned it down.
Yes,
because I just don't think we would have ended up with the Spider-Man game that we ended up with. And if you take Xbox out of the equation, I just want the best games that there are. And I appreciate at the time it was a third-party developer doing it anyway. But it all worked out for the best, I think, in the end. I don't think Microsoft would have made it any better than it currently is. So we might as well leave with what we've got, because there was a fairly big chance it might have actually been worse than what we've got now, if that makes any sense. So
yeah, no, definitely.
That's my take on it. Okay, well, fantastic. Thank you very much, chat. Thank you very much. Great questions coming in from the chat. That's good. It's kind of like I say, stretching us, pushing us, pulling us. Fantastic. Well, with no further ado, we'll move on to topic 2, if that's okay. And this is another one that kind of blew up on the internet. Actually, I meant to take a screen capture of it, and I didn't, so I do apologise. But there was a bit of a shitstorm earlier in the week when Gene Park of the Washington Post tweeted that he was unsubscribing from Game Pass. Within the tweet, he admitted that he barely uses it, and went on to say that maybe the June showcase will change it, meaning his mind on cancelling. But I was promised new exclusives every 3 months, and we just don't have that. I played Trek to Yomi, so pretty much saying that he's going to cancel it for now, temporarily, whilst there's nothing on the horizon. And this really did lead to a bit of a shitstorm, and like I say, we'll come on to that. Lots of fanboys jumped all over it. Lots of the PlayStation fanboys jumping in to have a bit of a swing and a dig, saying it's a rubbish service, it's full of fillers, all of the old sort of cliches that we've heard in the past. Lots of Xbox fanboys coming to the rescue, saying it's phenomenal value for money and game delays happen, and there's lots of truth in everything that's been said, I guess. But then Kotaku came wading in with I think I've got it here, actually, with this tweet. I'll flash it up on the screen in a sec. And it actually reads, after years of hype, the Xbox Game Pass Burnout is here. And again, that kicked off lots of conversation. And the Game Pass Twitter account actually responded directly. And it says, I'll flash it up on the screen. Tell me you limit yourself to only AAA games without telling me you limit yourself to only AAA games. Which was quite a good funny burn, I think, to come back. But then In Exile actually came back and pasted over the top of this the golden ratio symbol, because as you can see, it's ratioing pretty well, making Kotaku look a bit stupid, in all honesty. And while this is a lot of fun, and you can sit on the sidelines, it's quite a good spectator sport. There was some questions in there I thought we could bring to tonight's show and actually ask. Is there burnout in Game Pass, do you think? Do you think there is an element of people that will actually think, well, nothing's going to happen now for the next, till early next year, potentially? I think I will cancel my subscription. Pux, is that something you've ever considered? And have you seen people online mentioning this at all?
Oh, I've seen loads of things mentioned online, people saying this. I myself, I'm not too fussed, because in a way I like knowing... So I have no intention of unsubscribing anytime soon, but that's because it's not just from the fact that I see the value and coming from that angle. It's just also knowing that in my own mind that if I want to sit down and play a game, and maybe I'm not feeling anything that I've currently got downloaded, I have any and every opportunity here to go through this massive list and go, that game I looked at a couple of months ago, which I didn't fancy at the time. Time has passed, my mind has changed, or the different mood that I'm in, or whatever else. I can then look at something and go, actually, you know what, I want to try that, and I can download it, and it could become, the best franchise ever for the period of time that I play it. And I think that it's more than just there's no big exclusives coming out, so therefore it's not worth the money, because it's all about the offering and what it can do for other people. I think there seems to be a lot of people on the internet seem to follow this mindset of it's only for the big games, really, and the indies are just like a whatever. They're just like an add-on. When I think the reality is the opposite. It's not only are indie devs themselves striving from the service, and I've seen some tweets on Twitter from some devs who have put their own games on there, saying that there's such a massive issue with or concern, I should say, around how these indies are going to get their money back. Because of course, if you're not on a service like Game Pass, where you speak with Xbox and you communicate some sort of contract, and then you get given a load of money up front. A lot of devs have been saying, sorry, that if anything, putting their game on Game Pass immediately covers most, if not all, of their development costs, as well as their marketing that they would have had to have done prior anyway. So by not only taking the money to have their games on Game Pass, they also arguably get some free marketing there, because more people are going to play it, more people can potentially review it online, more eyes are then going to see it. And then if people aren't on Game Pass and the game's available on other services, it's then a big opportunity for these people to go to the game and buy it. If it's on PlayStation or Switch or PC or whatever, people can then buy these games. So it does good from that point of view. So I think the argument that we're not getting AAA games every 3 months like we was promised. I mean, for one, I don't remember, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it was said, but I personally don't remember ever hearing or seeing anything along the lines of, we are going to give you a AAA game every X amount of months. Even obviously that was before the pandemic, and then that's obviously caused a lot of delays, understandably so. And of course, there's now currently the crisis going on in Ukraine and that kind of stuff. A lot of devs over there are understandably having to delay their games, a lot of which have some prominent following that people are really looking forward to. So there's all these different circumstantial reasons why delays are happening and things aren't coming out as early as they can. So I think the argument that I'm going to unsub to this because I think it's a load of tat because I'm not getting what I was promised. It was like, well, no, one, you wasn't promised anything, and you are free to do it if you want. Is it arguably irresponsible to say something like that if you're a prominent head? I mean, yes, I know that people should be free to say whatever they want, and they are, but it just seems so. Irrational how this whole thing has blown up to everyone. I know people have been having a bit of fun with it, saying that, oh, I'm now going to list my subs. And I think Wandering Dutch did it, which I thought was quite funny. Like all just tongue-in-cheek stuff, but I just find it ridiculous how it's blown up to the level it has.
Well, that's the thing. So, in fairness to Gene Park, it was a bit of a throwaway comment, and he did say it's only a temporary thing. And, there's obviously some frustration there around the game delays, which I get. Yeah, and I completely agree. I don't think any of us were ever promised that we were going to get a AAA game every quarter of the year. I know Phil Spencer alluded that they would like to be releasing a first-party title every 3 to 4 months, but I think from memory that's the extent of anything like that that's been mentioned. Certainly no promises made. Luke, this seems to have fallen into a... if you subscribe to Game Pass, then you like the fillers and stuff, and there's no AAAs coming along, so there's no reason to subscribe to that service. It's a bit of a strange argument, isn't it? I'm not really sure why it's blown up like that, other than perhaps fanboys using it as an opportunity to sort of lob grenades at each other. But is it fair for someone to think actually these games have been delayed? I'm going to unsubscribe until something bigger comes along.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. People do that for Netflix, Prime, any subscription service. If you don't feel like it's giving you value at this time, unless you've got, unless you're happy just having the subscription and playing what's on there anyway, then it's absolutely fine to cancel your subscription. That's an entirely personal choice. And sometimes you keep subscriptions around to play games that are in there already or to watch things that are in already. Like, I'll never cancel Disney Plus. Why won't I ever cancel Disney Plus? Because even if there's nothing coming out on it, it's got every season of The Simpsons. That's enough for me to keep me subscribed. I don't need new stuff. So I don't understand why it blew up in either sense, because on the one hand, it's just a throwaway comment, and I genuinely believe that that's a fair comment to make. If you're the reason you're subscribed to the service is big first party games often, then if you look forward at the slate of this year, Xbox doesn't really have much of that we know of, right, or that we can conceive of. So if that's the value in the service and you want to cancel it, that's fine. That's no problem. Are you missing out on potentially great other experiences? Yes. But you are on anything like Netflix or Prime or whatever. There are things that come out that take people by surprise. I'm sure nobody was sitting around on Netflix, or there were people sitting around on Netflix cancelling it, thinking there's nothing coming out here that I'm interested in. Oh, there's a show coming up called Squid Game. Who wants to watch that? And then it blows up and it becomes a phenomenon and gets them to resubscribe. So it's stuff like that. The reaction to it has just been totally bizarre, because on the one hand, you've got, Xbox fanboys, let's call them, like hounding Gene Park to say, oh, well, it's ridiculous and this and that, which is a weird argument in of itself, because if he wants to broadcast that he's cancelled something, I don't really find that particularly offensive. If you find that offensive, you're weird, to be honest.
I think he did it in quite a respectful way.
Yeah, he didn't go, Game Pass is shit.
No.
It's not worth the money, it's not worth the money that I give to it. He just said, look, I just don't want to subscribe to it anymore. I think you can take umbrage with the fact, you could say on a factual basis, will you promise 3 or 4 games every, whatever it was, a game every quarter, right, basically. And there was that language, as you alluded to, that Phil said what they want to be in a position to do is in the future have it so their first party is churning, one game every quarter, one big game. And that's a really admirable goal. I'm sure they will get to that at some point, but that takes a lot of years of planning to do. So maybe you could take umbrage with the fact that that's just an incorrect statement. But if you find it offensive, or you have to defend Microsoft or defend Game Pass as a service, you're just weird. You're just a weirdo on the internet. Like, I'm really sorry. And then on the other hand, if you're someone who doesn't even subscribe to the service and you're using that as proof, some unfathomable proof that the service is crap and that your choices have been vindicated, you're also weird. You're a strange person. You need like psychiatric help, because if you are using these tweets as arguments to defend or not defend a service that exists entirely to get you to subscribe, and you don't have to do that, it's weird. It's just weird. So I just found the reaction I had when I read the tweet was indifference. The reaction I had when I read the replies and saw the, days worth of comments on my feed, these like tongue-in-cheek, I'm unsubscribing from blah, 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 or whatever, or, rushing to the defense of one and against the other. The reaction I had was just kind of like annoyance more than anything. This kind of stuff really annoys me. So very bizarre. I mean, in terms of like, is Game Pass burning out, like as a personal thing? To me, it's not. Like, I'll still keep subscribed to Game Pass because, first of all, there are a lot of things I still play on there that I'd like to still have access to. Of course, I could buy them, like Forza Horizon 5, but there's tons of indie games that are coming on that service this year, especially. I'm a big indie game player, so I'll have that. There will be first-party stuff, I'm sure, this year. It might not be the huge stuff, but I'll enjoy it. It just, if you're ever in a pinch and you think, actually, it's the summer months, I don't really have much to play, or kind of nothing really takes my fancy, you've got a massive library of games. It's just like Netflix, you just go in and you might go, oh, I remember that. I've played that before. I want to play it again. I want to have some fun with it. So, so it's just a bizarre situation, to be honest. Game Pass, first party, it's in a bit of a lull. It's going to be in a bit of a lull for a while. It'll pick back up. It'll be great for that stuff. It's already great for the other stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The thing that I think, there was 2 things that I picked up on Gene Parks' tweet. And the first one was, It was, well, actually saying that the one that really got me was the fact that he was going to cancel his subscription and potentially wait for the June showcase. Which I'm thinking, well, that's only 2 weeks away. So if you've got a month's subscription, then that's a little bit odd. I don't know. Like you say, I actually don't mind this. I can keep all of this at arm's length and actually enjoy it as a spectator sport, to be honest. Puxley, this, obviously Microsoft are trying to push... or trying to push Game Pass as hard as they can. I see Game Pass... taking point, shall we say, in the Xbox lineup. It's the thing that they are trying to push the hardest, if that makes sense. So, obviously everyone's a bit gutted if you're an Xbox fan, probably more so around Starfield than Redfall, but, there would have been an element of people that are really excited for Redfall. This is a little bit of an Achilles heel, isn't it, to Game Pass, in the fact that if they can't actually keep, play keepy-uppy with their AAA titles, as it were, they are going to drop the ball, and there is a danger that people will actually leave the service, which is the last thing Microsoft really want, in all honesty, because this seems to be very divisive around people that are in it for AAA titles and people that are in it for everything else, including AAA titles, if that makes sense. So this must hurt Microsoft. This must come into their decision-making when they're having to delay these games, thinking, well, this is potentially going to hurt Game Pass as well. A little bit like, we've seen with Netflix recently.
I would say yes and no. Mainly because Game Pass, even though it feels like it's been around for a while now, the reality is that I would argue it's actually still very new, and it's still growing as a service and how it works and how it's provided to people. I mean, ultimately, this thing came out in, I believe, 2018, if I remember correctly. Or maybe it was 2019. I can't quite remember which one it is.
Game Pass.
Yes.
2018, I believe. Yeah.
2018, yeah, I thought so. Because I subbed to it in 2019 on my PC first. And even since that time frame, when I subbed to it first in 2019 after I built my gaming PC, the one I use now, the service then was arguably very limited in terms of what it offered and how it worked and how it functions. It was literally just a small window you would open, select a game to download and play it. But for me, that was great because I had the advantage then, at least, because I was only paying... It was the £1 a month. Then on PC at the time, it was only $3.99 a month or something. So, excuse me. All I had to do was play Crackdown once, for Crackdown 3 for a bit, which I did at the time because I really wanted to try it out, as well as Sea of Thieves. And I'd already made like 2 years worth of my money back just by playing them for a period of time that I would have otherwise bought maybe at some point. And I feel like this is a thing that people forget. It's that I agree, over a long period of time, if say Game Pass is as it is now, but we don't get any big AAA release for say another whole year. So let's say we don't see anything big until maybe, let's call it June, July next year. Then I feel like people may have a bit more of a reason to say, yes, there's all of these other titles on here, really cool indie games, etc. But a lot of people would come to Xbox, and as well as the service which you say they're pushing, in the hopes of, yes, I can enjoy all these really cool indie games, but I also want to be able to get my money's worth by being able to play these big games that I don't want to pay 70 quid for. I think because that is the advantage, isn't it? And people then make this argument that, but what if PlayStation thing becomes a big thing and all the rest of it? But so even though this whole PS Plus service or the premium tier is shaping up to look like a pretty decent-ish Game Passy thing, it's not quite Game Pass, is it? It's older titles which they're basically moving. The PS1 stuff is new, arguably. That's the really cool thing if you're into that nostalgia-based stuff or just want to experience the older things. So that's already a niche in its own right. Then you've got the PS2 stuff, which is mainly just being moved from what was on PS Now to this service, or to this new one, and then just some other PS4 and PS5 games. And they've already said themselves that they're not going to be having brand new AAA releases come out on that service immediately anytime soon. At least that's the messaging they're saying now. So people making these comparisons to say that, I'm sub from the service or whatever else, everyone's in the same camp, I think. And yeah, of course you need to deliver games at some point, but yeah, if you leave it long enough, I think it will become a problem. The argument of you have all of these indies, what's the problem? I think the unfortunate reality is, even though there are a lot of really good indie games out there which are hard to find and discover, without games like Game Pass, there are also a lot of people out there who don't give a damn about indies at all, and they only want to play those titles. I mean, that is the unfortunate reality. Even though they have the opportunity right in front of them right now to go through the library and pick something that looks interesting, reality is people just won't do it because they don't care. They're not interested in that. They just want to play the big titles. So, yes, there's a pool of people which, if you don't cater to them, they may unsubscribe, which could be an issue. But then equally, you've got a massive pool of people who, like Luke said, if there's stuff on the service that you're looking forward to because you know they're coming, then you don't unsubscribe because it's always a platform that you can reach out on. So it's a mixed thing. And I mean, like Luke said, with Luke keeps Disney Plus, I unsub and resub to it all the time. So
Yeah,
and I think other people may well just bounce on it like that as well.
yeah, no, I completely get that, Luke. You know, it is a little bit of an Achilles heel, isn't it? Like you say, you know, your subscribers will go up and down, but Kotaku come wading in like they did, trying to make this about AAAs and stuff. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts and feelings on Kotaku are, but it just seems like they come wading in just to try and drive some traffic, just to stir up the shit a little bit further. Like I say, as much as Gene Park's kind of tweet I thought was kind of measured and kind of okay, I think Kotaku's was kind of coming in to be a little bit more pointed. I don't know what your take on that. What did you make of Game Pass's response as well? The Twitter that they responded back with.
Yeah, I mean, I think Twitter's the domain of the trolls, right? And every account can be a troll account. And I think the Game Pass one was just playing that role for that time because Kotaku, you know, agree with the article. I think whatever, you know what I mean? Like it's just Kotaku themselves were seeing the furore about all of this and reacting to it with a provocative article because they're a media outlet. Like, of course they want to do that. They want, as you say, they want to drive people to their site. So I quite enjoyed the Game Pass retort. You know, I think it's just fair game. You know, that's what it is. So again, you know, I don't understand quite people getting angry at Kotaku. But I also don't understand people that subsequently got angry at the Game Pass tweet reply. You know, that's also weird. So, like, who cares? Like, just let them. Like, it's just fun. It's just a bit of fun. So
I think the strange thing is,
why do you care?
We're so close to that June showcase. Just wait another 2 weeks, and if after that nothing's come out, then fair game. Cancel your subscription. Wait till Starfield. Whatever. Absolutely fine, but you never know what Xbox might drop in there, and they might have another AAA up their sleeve. They might do. It's not beyond plausibility.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, it was just weird that it was just a couple of weeks out from the showcase, but then was like, I'll revisit it then. You might as well just hold on to it in that case and cancel it June 12th if nothing's coming afterwards, you know. So, very strange. It'd be like cancelling, you know, Netflix just before their big earnings call and they announce a load of shows, or Disney before they show their roadmap for Marvel, you know, or Star Wars. So, yeah, it's a bit weird.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Pucks, where are we with the chat? We've got Sean Abbott, new to our Discord channel. Welcome, Sean. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the chat. What have we got?
Yeah, hello, Sean. Sean says or asks us, what's your thoughts on Microsoft developing a cloud streaming style bit of hardware to drop at the showcase on June 12th? And are you guys live reacting to the showcase? So I suppose for the second point, we're not immediately reacting to it, but we may well be doing a post reaction with someone else who I don't know if we've revealed yet. So
we have. No, we're doing it with Archimedes, Box and Burner. So we're doing a post. We're doing a post-show reaction. So we're not doing a live reaction. We're doing a post-show reaction, and the whole of the GPG crew will be joining Box and Burger over on his channel, and we will be responding to the news that's just being revealed. And I've got a feeling. I watched Colt Eastwood's video earlier. And sometimes they can be a little bit sensational, but actually, I think there's some truth in what he might be saying around some of the releases that Xbox might be able to pull out of the hat. There may be a reason why Starfield could be moved to next year, if you see what I mean. So I think the June 12th showcase, I'm hoping, is going to be very exciting, but I am a typical Xbox fan saying that. Just wait till E3, and here we are saying it yet again. but never have Xboxes been in this situation before with the amount of IP and the amount of studios that they've got. So if a year, if there's any year that it's worth saying, wait till E3, it's probably this one, in all honesty. But we've covered the streaming stick before, haven't we? In fact, it's a puck. It's been rumoured to be a puck, hasn't it? Do you think they might reveal that, Luke, on June the 12th? Is now the time?
I don't know if it's. I don't know. Would the showcase be the? Yeah, when is a good time? But would the showcase be the right place to reveal that? Because people who are tuning into the showcase, are they going to care about that product? And I probably guess not. So I think they will probably reveal it in the next few months, but it will be like a blog post or something like that, rather than. I mean, that's just. I hope not anyway, because I don't want a fucking puck taking away from other stuff at that show.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, I just wanted, they could have. We're saying like wait till E3, but they could have a really good show this year, even if there's nothing really that much coming out this year. They could show a roadmap and footage and different things of really exciting games down the horizon. And ultimately, those are always the most exciting E3. I don't really care if the games are far away, but just give me a reason to be excited about the platform. And I think they can really do that for everyone really well. So, don't waste it on a puck. Don't do that.
When you visit the amount of games and projects they've got in development, and these are just the ones that we know about, it's phenomenal. The amount that you forget, because I'd forgotten about Indiana Jones. It's like, oh, we've got the Indiana Jones thing, Contraband. There's all of these ones that are kind of sitting on the periphery that you just forget about, and you think, well, is Contraband a lot closer to release than I thought it might have been? Because we only saw that kind of very brief CG kind of, I don't know, about 30 seconds long, wasn't it? Just the sort of I think it was like the lid of a chest that said Contraband written on it and stuff. So we don't really know much more about it other than it's an open world co-op kind of heist game set in the 70s, I believe. So, if they could shadow drop that or at least drop it, late this year, early next year, that it's like you say, it's plausible. It's not necessarily going to happen, but it's plausible. So, and we covered a lot of the streaming stuff on our previous show, didn't we? So it might be worth checking that out, Sean. But because we actually went quite a lot into depth about how they're going to deal with the controller, whether it's going to be a new Wi-Fi controller, or if this little puck is going to have its own proprietary Wi-Fi signal to the controller. We went all into depth with that kind of thing. So, is there any other chat that we need to cover, Puxley?
No immediate questions I've seen. I know Indie Gamer says a shadow drop of Somerville, perhaps, which would be quite cool to see.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
Just for Indie, if Somerville does drop, I'll be playing it on my brand new Steam Deck.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, wow, look at that.
Very nice. Very nice. That's going to light the chat up. Excellent. So go on, give us a quick synopsis. What's it like?
Well, as you can see, it's extremely large.
It is.
Very large. I do have a Switch outside of the periphery, but I can't pick it up.
I was going to say, what's the size comparison? But if it's too difficult...
hang on. Let me 1 second.
He's running from room to room now, pegging it around the house. I've seen, I don't know if you've seen that they've actually managed to get VR running from the Steam Deck. It's like, oh my God, have you?
So, I'll see if this works, but here is your Switch.
Yeah, oh wow, yeah.
By comparison to your Steam Deck.
It's a bit of a beast.
Yes, it's quite large, but it's a really cool thing. This is that's Resident Evil Village.
Oh wow!
On there at the moment. So
nice.
You probably can't see it too well, but that's what it is. So
is it an LCD screen?
It is. Yeah, that's the only disadvantage I think is that it's a okay LCD panel.
Which
is quite jarring.
Does it ghost when you pan?
It's not that bad actually. It's okay. It could be better. And I suspect future iterations will, improve on the screen a lot. But it's the only, it's the only big advantage of this, which is the OLED Switch, which has an amazing screen. But then on the Switch, you can't play Resident Evil Village at 60 FPS. So
And how does it hold up? How does it hold up at 60 FPS? Is it?
I think the Village is it can drop But I mean, you can. I'm just having a look what settings I've got it on, but I've got it kind of a mix of low, medium, and high, and it's getting 60 FPS and holding pretty steady. So
does it run hot,
yeah.
or is it okay in the hands? It doesn't or is it massive fan going off all the time? Or
the fan does go off, so it exhausts at the top there.
Yeah.
But you can't actually feel it. There's no heat on the back, really. There's only heat as it starts to go towards the middle here. But you can hear the fan. The fan does kick up, especially on stuff like this, like Village. But it also has really one of the Xbox's defining features, or one of its coolest features, which is kind of the quick resume thing.
Oh, wow.
So you can't do it with multiple games, but you can put it in standby, activate it, and it drops you straight back into whatever you're playing. So it's a super cool.
Do you see it as now that you've got it in your hands and you've experienced it? Does it feel like a Switch killer to you? Dare I say?
Wow.
That's a big question. That's a loaded question.
I know
I think
it's an unintentional loaded question as well.
Yeah, I think they're different products, right? So the Switch is a different proposition. I think it'll never be a Switch killer in the sense of it'll never play Switch games, Nintendo games. So if you enjoy that, you'll always get a Switch. I think for someone like Indy, it probably is because he doesn't play Nintendo games. So you've got every indie you could ever imagine on the deck. You don't have to wait for them to come to Switch, which I think Indy can correct me if I'm wrong, but is the reason mainly he owned a Switch was that he wanted a kind of handheld indie platform.
Yeah, I think I remember that as well. Yeah.
So, but I've got kind of all these different. This is my library of stuff, and like it's just amazing being able to play. Got Elden Ring down here. Doom,
wow.
It's not a touchscreen, is it? Or is it?
It is touchscreen.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So yeah, it's just cool. I mean, it's great if you've got a big Steam library, especially. It's awesome. You can't play every game on it, but you can play a fair few. So that's the Steam Deck portion of the show.
And just to say as well, Ash Reviews Games, when you first got it out, said, Christ, he whipped it out and it's massive.
Yes.
Madam, as the actress said to the bishop. Yeah. Fantastic. No, I'm really pleased you showed us that because I've seen you tweeted about it and stuff, and I'm intrigued now. I'm intrigued. I know I've said many times, and we've had many arguments or discussions around. I don't know if I have space in my life for a handheld device, but actually, I am starting to be swayed by that. And I've seen that they can run VR on it. Have you seen that? There's plenty of That's pretty phenomenal, isn't it? My God.
It's pretty cool, yeah. I mean, it's a super powerful piece of kit. It's a really powerful platform that you can do an awful lot of stuff on, even outside just the Steam OS. So, I think the sooner Microsoft can figure out some integration with Game Pass, the better, and kind of the compatibility with their games as well.
Well, they've always said on what was the exact wording? They want Game Pass to be on all of the compatible devices or something along that. And you've got one in your hands right there, haven't you? That's a device that could play Xbox games that you get Game Pass on. So
I've also seen on like the game dev Twitter side of things as well that people that have one are saying that they've been able to get things like a Godot engine and the Unity engine running on it, and plugging in a wireless mouse and keyboard, and they're like doing some dev work on it, and it's in a very weird way. It almost seems like it could well be a cheaper alternative to like something like a gaming laptop to do some more intense dev stuff. So,
wow,
it's an interesting proposition. Not saying that's going to happen anytime soon, but just the idea that almost like with back in the day, like you don't pick up a DVD player, you pick up a PS2 instead because it's cheaper. It's like, is this almost the same difference? But yeah, no, that's really cool.
Just out of interest, and I should know the answer to this one. Does it have a video output? Is it got like micro HDMI or USB-C?
It has USB-C.
As a video out?
I don't actually know. I'm having a look. I don't think it does, although it does dock via USB-C with the Steam Deck dock that's coming out in the future, so you can actually monitorize it. But I'm not entirely sure.
I think
I'd
USB-C
imagine you
can
should
carry
be,
video,
yeah.
but you need a compatible
Yeah.
monitor or a sort of an adapter to get it back into HDMI. I'm guessing, but
You can get USB-C
fantastic.
to DisplayPort stuff, can't you? So
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you very much. We're going to leave it there as that topic, and we're going to move on to our final topic. But before we do, just thanks to the chat. Let's just do a very quick shout out. We haven't done one of these yet. Indie Gamer, Myseko. Who have we got? Arturo Trevino, Ash Reviews Games, It's Timmy, Stubbs is in the chat, Back from the Dead, Sean Abbott, like I say, new member to the Discord channel. And again, if you're listening and you haven't joined our Discord channel, please do. Link is in the description below. So thank you very much for being here. We're going to move on to our final topic for today. And I think this came about today. Now, I know you messaged in our Discord server about this one, Luke, and I think I know what your views on this are. But it was suggested by the TV and electrics company TCL, which I think are the second largest producer of flat screens in the world, that the new Xbox Series X and S and PlayStation 5 Pro consoles could arrive as soon as 2023 or 2024, as mentioned recently in a presentation in Poland. There was I thought I'd uploaded it. I'll upload it in a sec. There was actually a presentation, a screen shown around Gen 9.5, and there were some specs actually flashed up on the screen as well. Now, it's a bit of a strange one because part of me's thinking, well, there probably is going to be some pro machines coming along. I mean, the average sort of console generation lifetime is kind of 7 to 8 years. 2024 probably, is that still a bit soon, do you think? I don't know. And I think another quote that you mentioned, Luke, is, well, why would TCL know this information? You know, is this just purely speculation on their part, or are they privy to some sort of roadmap? Now, when you think about it, obviously TV manufacturers, console sales can push TV sales quite hard, particularly if there's a new technology coming along. So I'm guessing if TCL want to be pushing 8K and stuff, then they might be looking at console manufacturers to say, you know, when have you got an 8K machine coming? We'll do a big push together on this. Don't really know how that side of things works, but what's your gut feeling on this one, Luke? Is this kind of speculation on their part, or do they have some inside knowledge, do you think?
I just think it's nonsense. I think it's just pure speculation based on the prior gen, essentially. I mean, you know, the world is still in a semiconductor shortage crisis moment. It's getting a little better. Why manufacturers, you know, when did the consoles launch? 2020? Was it 2020?
2021. Yeah. Ooh.
No, it's 2020 they came out.
It was 2020.
It was the end of 2020.
Yes.
Yeah, it was the end of 2020 because it's pandemic year. Yeah, the main pandemic year. So why would they launch a supposed mid-gen refresh? You know, free potentially 4 years. You know, let's say 3 years in, because I think the slides did mention 2023 as one of the potential dates. When they still can't manufacture enough base next-gen consoles. There are still huge shortages of PS5s, Series X, Series S less so. The reasons and rationale for that have been explained. Nobody's able to buy these consoles, even if they exist. So, and they're not able to manufacture enough of them. So, you know, and I suspect that this gen will last quite a bit longer than other gens for the reason that they have had these issues in supplying consoles. They will need to recoup costs in some way over time, so that this will probably be a longer generation. So if there is a mid-gen refresh, I wouldn't expect it for at least for another 2, maybe 3 years. I just think it's total nonsense, basically. I just think it's complete speculation. TCL might be privy to information. I mean, obviously, as you say, they are a TV manufacturer. They would work with platform holders to make sure that some of their TVs carry the sort of features that these consoles need, and to ensure compatibility and all that stuff, all the VRR stuff, you know, Dolby Vision, all that kind of stuff, right? But there's no way that if they existed for real and they knew that they would be putting it out on a slide to the public essentially and telling people about it.
Let's flash that slide up on the screen. So there we are. I've managed to upload it. So hopefully you can see that. Yeah. So it's Gen 9.5. And it seems strange that the Xbox Series S and X and Pro, slated to launch a similar sort of time. I mean, I guess that they obviously launched their base consoles at the same time, so it's not beyond reason. Yeah, 8K, 60 to 120 frames an output. That seems incredibly unlikely, doesn't it? So that alone is probably enough.
Yeah, fanciful isn't even the right word for that. I mean, it's just like it just sounds like they had an intern do it, and they were just like, just make it up, just do whatever. So, yeah, very strange. I think. Look, I think what it is they're predicting where console gaming will go in terms of display technology, right? In terms of the interface between a console and display, and thinking what's the next step. And I think they've just put it on there because rationally, to some extent, I guess, they think that the next step is going to be 8K. They've got a lot of 8K televisions to sell, I'm sure, in a market where there is no real justification to buy an 8K television at the moment because the underlying media just doesn't exist in the same way that 4K does. So, I think that they're probably looking at that and just saying, look, this is the future, this is where we're going, so we'll be making TVs to cater for it. But yeah, it's just not going to happen. It's like I will give away my Steam Deck to a GPG viewer if the PS5 Pro or next Xbox Series X Pro launches in 2023.
Oh, you heard it here. I think that's quite safe in all honesty. Yeah. I think you're okay on that.
Yeah, I know that's. Yeah. I'm very safe. Yeah. I totally mean that, and I know I'm safe from it. So
yeah, no, you are. Nothing's happening in 2023. Like you say, perhaps I think there's already a PlayStation 5 revision that's happened. I think it's already happening. It's only a minor revision. I think it helps alleviate some of the potential silicon issues. I mean, it's they're not casting it on a slightly different die or anything like that. There is some minor tweaks that should hopefully help alleviate some of the production issues. One of the counter arguments to this, though, and we'll come to you, Pux, on this one, is that actually, video game technology, as in graphics card CPUs, seems to be speeding up. I mean, Moore's Law, as much as people say Moore's Law's dead, it seems to be very much alive, and if not speeding up, if anything. The current generation of consoles, the now-gen consoles, Xbox Series S, X, and PlayStation 5, really, are probably the closest they've ever been to a top-end PC in the state that they launched in. So if they were to extend this generation longer, doesn't that just mean they're going to fall so much further behind the PC technology at the time? And so obviously games will suffer for it. So does it then not make sense to actually, produce incremental upgrades as you go through the generation?
I don't think that's a great idea, ultimately, in the long term. I think part of me, I appreciate you've got the hardcore, heavy gamers who've, somehow have all the money in the world, who are able to just splash obscene amounts of cash on any new tech that comes out, and they want the latest thing, the brand new thing, as soon as they can, and whatever. But the reality, again, like a lot of these things, is that the large proportion of the gaming consumer base are made up of people who aren't in those positions. They buy that one system, without things like Gamepass, say, maybe buy a couple of games throughout the course of a year or something, or enjoy free-to-play content, or if you are subscribed to something like a service, you can do that. But ultimately, you expect to have that system and have new things coming out for that system until the generation dies. Arguably, even with the last-gen upgrades, with the One X and the PS4 Pro, yes, there were some titles where it boosted to 60 and whatever else, but for the most part, I would argue that it wasn't fully utilized as much as it could be, from what I remember, at least. Maybe I'm speaking too soon, but I mean, yeah, maybe I am, because I appreciate a lot of people do really like the fact that even at PS4 Pro, you can play things. Oh, if I had it on a base one, I'm playing at 30 frames, so this one I'm playing at 60. A lot of people, an arguably small proportion of people care about that. For the most part, I think most people on a console aren't too fussed whether or not they're playing at 30 or 60 outside of the real heavy hardcore. But I don't know. Do I think it's unjust or unfair? Do I think it'd be kept behind? No, I don't think it will really, because we're almost so you're correct in that the whole Moore's law thing. Yes, arguably it was dead because we almost got to a point. It was like, how can we improve any more? And then technology finds a way, as it always does. And now we're on this new path of, okay, we've now developed this new thing, this new concept, which the world now loves and appreciates and has gathered around, whatever that may be. And then then new things develop from that technology, whether or not that feeds into games or not, right? So, and I think we kind of got to a point with that in gaming with regards to things like visual fidelity, right? For the longest time, we were like, gaming seemed to be chasing realism, being able to push graphics to the max, how much they could, be able to have all this power for nothing. But I feel like, in a way, the reality is, even though you have all this power, it's also becoming more and more apparent that with more power becomes much more complexity, which means much more time to develop things. And there's only so much scope and resource in the world that you can have before a game's released. Arguably, yes, there are some titles out there which say they take like 7 or 8 plus years to develop, and maybe that's just part of the beast, I guess, depending on an ambitious project. But not everybody wants to wait that amount of time, so developers are keeping their time frames within that 3 to 4 year development period to make sure that you're catering to the technology of the time. And I feel like by giving people free reign of all the power in the world is a problem, I think, because with technical constraints comes creativity in how you not only tackle problems but how you improve things. So by there being, because of the pandemic and chip shortages, having issues with you can't make GPUs, so the price of GPUs has gone ridiculously through the roof into 4 figures now, which is absurd. Like, any normal person should wait, I would say, unless you're super desperate and need a powerful machine. But I don't think it's going to hold gaming back or things like that, because I feel like, in a way, those constraints help. But in terms of what's the other thing you asked me about? Oh yeah, about the mid-gen upgrade stuff. So do I think it's possible? I mean, anything's possible, I guess. And it's also not unfeasible, I think. I mean, I agree with Luke for the most part in that it seems almost ridiculous that it's coming out potentially as early as next year, if not 2024. It does seem too early. And for me, even though we're 2 years in, it's still, again, maybe because of the pandemic and stuff and things being delayed, understandably, as we've discussed before, it still feels like we're waiting for this generation to really kick off, and us as console gamers to really see the benefit of super high-end gaming. So I can definitely see this being extended. But if there is a refresh, I wouldn't necessarily see it as being a version 2 or version like 1.5 or something. I would see it more of because PCB respins in the electronic space happen all the time, and it's typically to take out obsolescence. So at the time, for those who maybe aren't sure what that means, so you'll develop a bit of kit over a course of a good couple of years. You'll have all sorts of chips and components on these PCBs, and then before you know it, something's going obsolete, not being made anymore. It has a limited quantity of items left to buy. Oh no, we need to make a new one. Or what a lot of manufacturers do with arguably simpler chips and components is they just have a new version of it coming out, which might be more efficient, but it's still a different part, which means you have to order a new part, which means you have to re-qualify and retest the whole new board. And by extension, that may then mean retracking some of the board where components sit and lie, but that doesn't mean that the system is different. It's fundamentally the same thing. So if there's any form of refresh or anything new that's happening, it's mainly going to be that. But no doubts they're looking into tech. But given the cost of things at the moment, and again the chip shortages, I don't see a refresh anytime soon. I just think it just, as Luke said, it just seems ludicrous to even consider at this moment in time.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in the world that we live in with chip shortages and hardware shortages and stuff, it does seem like a crazy notion, to be honest. But that doesn't necessarily stop the designs and stuff being in place. And Luke, you've always mentioned that perhaps there needs to be a reason to upgrade. Perhaps an incremental upgrade isn't necessarily enough of a carrot, shall we say, to sort of entice people over to the new system. I think ray tracing has got a long way to go. I think we're just about scratching the surface with ray tracing in this current now generation. There's some obviously improvements that can be made there. I'm not convinced with 8K gaming. Do you think 8K gaming will ever actually be a thing, Luke? And do you think this might also be one of the reasons why specifically a TV manufacturer is kind of making these assumptions?
I think it will be a thing, but it's not going to be, even if it is, it's not going to be a thing mid-gen this gen, for AAA games. It's just not going to happen, unless we're, if we mean native 8K gaming, definitely not. If we mean, will technologies develop in such a way as they have in 4K, where you have checkerboarding, active on a lot of games, or things like DLSS, where you can get effectively 4K results from a non-4K resolution, then yeah, we'll get 8K gaming at some point, and then eventually we'll be able to do native 8K games, but they're not going to happen. I can't even see them happening next generation, to be honest.
Really?
So, I think it's quite unlikely. So, and who, at this point, who cares about resolution? I mean, really, I think most people would rather resources be put into, performance on games and pushing graphical fidelity even further, right? And making games as amazing as they can look. And you're going to have to sacrifice between, graphical fidelity, performance, and resolution. The loser at present is always resolution, because people are satisfied enough with whatever you put out in terms of resolution. Even 1080p games still look good, but there are so many forms of upscaling, AI rendering, checkerboarding, all of that, which gives you a pristine image, and you're not running at a native resolution and impacting, what. So I think it is just, as I said, where the TV manufacturer goes, we guess this is the next step, because of course they're going to focus on resolution because they're a TV manufacturer. Let's see what happens. But it's certainly not, 8K is not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm not convinced with 8K. I know we went through the 3D phenomenon, and 3D's been around the block a few times, and yet again, it hasn't really taken off. I think 8K will be more successful than 3D TV, but there will become a point where this extra clarity, and particularly something as massively as demanding as 8K, even for TV and Netflix, do we have the infrastructure broadband wise to actually be able to stream 8K reliably, and like you say, massively demanding in CPUs, GPUs. I think 8K gaming is still quite a long way off, and I just don't, like you say, I don't think the actual benefits of 8K gaming actually outweigh the cost that it's going to take. I think Stubbs has put in the chat, 8K TVs are still very expensive at the moment. So other than an incremental upgrade to performance with a sort of a pro type machine, then I can't really see it. I can see a slim machine perhaps coming along, and like you say, that could incorporate a Series X, a diskless Series X, and things like that, with perhaps, like you say, a slightly different board design that may help manufacturing both costs and productivity.
Can I add something as well to what you're saying? In that, the other reason, on top of what you said already, within gaming as well, because I know currently, I know it's been around for a while, but currently about 4K texture packs are a thing, but they take up X amount of memory. I mean, 8K is by definition going to be
4 times
double
bigger.
Plus. Exactly, yeah, it's ridiculous. So, like the storage technology as its own medium needs to become cheaper and bigger. Like, we need more storage, and it needs to be consumer friendly, and that is a long way off. I mean, M2 drives, 1 terabyte M2 drives are only just now becoming more affordable without having to spend like 300 quid. So, like, you can get them on discounts in places for 80, 90 quid now, which is deemed decent, and but for a lot of people that is still too expensive. So
no, absolutely,
that is another reason to add into your list. Sorry,
Stubbs has put another comment in the chat. Hux,
Stubbs, yeah, they haven't showed people what PS5 and Xbox Series X can do yet, let alone trying to sell a more powerful one. Yeah,
I completely agree. And the other thing that we haven't really discussed is that although hardware can become exponentially more and more powerful, the UE5 engine actually creates stunning visuals, but with a very similar overhead to UE4 games, if that makes sense. So, the software can dig us out of this hole. Not that we're in a hole, but, software can help graphical fidelity, resolution, frame rates, as much as hardware. And like you say, in the dawn of a UE5, and we're still yet to see a full-blown UE5 game land and all of the bells and whistles that provides as well to actually land yet. So like you say, we're nearly 2 years into this generation. Well, we will be come November, and I still don't feel like we've actually seen the potential of this generation. And I guess that might feed back into Luke's earlier point, that because of that and because of the delays and what's going on in the world, that could actually extend this generation's lifetime by a couple of years, if that makes sense, with these delays.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, ultimately, I do think that if the pandemic didn't exist, never happened, that we'd be in a completely different position, right? I don't think we'd be thinking this. I think it's because of the fact that this has all happened. A lot of people's mindsets have changed, as well as just the delays and things that it's caused. It's obviously delayed the things which were due to come out. If not now, in a couple of months' time, they're being moved even further away. So. Yeah, as you say, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But
no, absolutely.
Feels like this trend has barely started yet. But in my mind, it means we just have a lot more to look forward to. Like that little box sitting in my living room, I just know there's going to be so much cool stuff coming out for it. So
yeah, no, absolutely. We're in a very strange time in console gaming at the moment because, like you say, and I know it's a meme, and we've said wait till the next E3 for Xbox and stuff, but it still very much feels like that. And like I say, because of the pandemic and things like that statement is probably truer this year than ever before because of all of the delays and stuff. 2023, we said this probably about 2022 to be fair, but 2023 should be the year that this deadlock sort of starts to unlock somewhat, because I'm thinking the company I work for, we're slowly starting to drift back into the office. We're starting to have more and more face-to-face contact and stuff like that, and I'm hoping it's the same for game developers and stuff. So we will get back to a point where perhaps game development speeds up slightly, and particularly with the new engines as well. There's lots of tools in the UE5 engine to help sort of procedurally generate build-ins and even people and characters. So it should speed up at some point, I guess. But it's a very exciting time, but a very frustrating time at this moment in time.
Another comment from Back from the Dead, who's also said, more than resolution or performance, they need to work more on minimizing game file sizes, which is definitely a thing. And again, as you say, this is also just beyond. I mean, arguably, you could say, computer science tells you that something takes a certain amount of space because that's how it works. But at the same time, compression technology it exists in a good extent, but it definitely needs to catch up to make sure we can do it. I mean, I think Fortnite is actually a good example of this, because when that came out for quite a long time, that game's file size was, I believe, like 80, 90 gig, that kind of range, which was quite normal. At the time, I think that was deemed quite large even when it first came out. But then they did a load of internal updates on their end for compression and how the assets are managed and things like that. And just how the whole structure of the game is put together from an assets perspective and how things pull from resources, etc. And it almost halved it in size. So the game now is on average about 36 gig, I believe, or that kind of figure. So they managed to more than half just about the file size just by restructuring how the game is put together. So I agree that, yes, more work needs to be done on minimizing game sizes via things like compression, but then equally, it's also down on each of the independent developers as well to make sure that they structure their game in such a way that it enables that compression to happen almost naturally, rather than having to force compression because of the fact it was put together not as well as it could have been.
Yeah, and there's lots of technology. We've got FSR 2.0, Luke. I don't know is there any games that are running that currently? I know it's pretty much brand new.
I think Deathloop is.
Is it?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, funnily enough, I tried
PC.
that on Yeah. I actually tried it on the deck. Funnily enough, and it seems to be it's quite good. So and it's a huge improvement over the first FSR. It's actually it's actually a genuine competitor to DLSS now. It's not as good as DLSS, but it's a lot closer.
So RDNA 2 inside the Xbox Series X. There's still so much untapped stuff in there. And it seems strange that we've physically got the hardware in our hands if you're lucky to be able to get hold of one. We just don't have the software, and the tool sets haven't existed for long enough for actually to be able to take massive advantage of these fantastic pieces of hardware we got. And that's the same for the PS5 as well. It's an exciting time. It's just frustrating, isn't it? The promise of fantastic looking games is just over the horizon that we can't quite see. But I'm hoping come June 12th Xbox showcase and whatever it is that PlayStation are going to do, I'm sure they're going to come back in some way, that we're going to start to see some of the hard work and some of these tool sets and some of these delays actually starting to pay off. And I think Hellblade 2 might be a good one, because if that game looks anything like the 2 clips that we've seen, that's just going to blow me away and think, wow, I cannot wait for that game to come out. So that's fantastic. I think we're going to wrap the show up there, chaps, if that's okay. Do we have any last sort of any last things to throw in the ring, or any last comments or chat that we need to? Stubbs said UE5 has incredible potential, but don't expect every UE5 to be jaw-dropping masterpiece. No, that's a fair point. UE5 is a game engine, and you could make a pixel art 2D game in UE5 if you really wanted to. So not everything's going to be jaw-dropping. So no, that's a fair point. But you'd like to think... Game is just... Well, someone imagine just UE5 in the hands of the Coalition. Just excites me so much. If we see anything to do with Gear 6, and I don't think we will, I think it will be the Marcus Phoenix collection before then, which I'm hoping will drop holiday time, but that's going to be phenomenal.
Indie Gamer has just come in as well, saying compression has to be done the right way. In general, most creatives tend not to want to compress their media, as it can affect quality if not done well, which is also true.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Just one last one from Stubbs. God of War Ragnarok. Is that launching this year? What do you reckon?
So.
I think it is. I think it is. I think
fairly confident about it.
Yeah, I think if it was going to get delayed, I think Sony would have utilised or capitalised perhaps on the fact that Starfield and Redfall were delayed, and I think they would have jumped into that same gaming lull that we had if they had bad news to drop as well. Kind of let's all soak it up together. So the fact they haven't done that, I still think we're on for a 2022 release, which excites the pants off me because I've got a PlayStation 5 and I cannot wait to play it. So
can't wait for that. I'm gonna
I'm on PS4 and I'm still looking forward to it. So.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you know what? I think it was Stubbs said it the other day. Actually, just even on PlayStation 4, something like God of War still looks phenomenal. Even on the base PlayStation 4, it's like, oh my god, this is fantastic. Yeah. It does show you how they utilised the PlayStation a lot more than perhaps they did on the Xbox One to a certain degree. I know the Coalition are brilliant, and particularly Turn 10 and Playground. They're very good at squeezing out every last drop, shall we say? But there's a difference between perhaps a driving game and something like God of War. And my God, did they squeeze every last drop out of the PlayStation 4?
I think Corey as well, Corey Barlog on Twitter, put a tweet out today saying something like, if you think you've seen everything there is to see in video games, you haven't seen the new God of War yet. So he was quite heavily hyped, and it's a difficult thing to do because everybody's going to be like, oh yeah, of course, if it backfires on him, it's not going to look great. But I think he's very confident in it. So
Fantastic. Well, it's exciting times ahead. Like I say, we're just in a frustrating lull at the moment. We've got a couple of weeks until we get the Xbox Game Showcase. I'm sure they're going to blow us away. I hope they do. And if they don't, then they're fair game. Then they are absolutely fair game because, like you say, we've been running this wait till E3 meme for forever, it seems. We can't keep saying it. There's going to have to be a point where they tip the scales and these games start flooding out. So hopefully we'll get there soon. Thank you very much, GPG Crew. Always a pleasure. We'll do it again soon. We'll at least do next Thursday. We'll try and bring a Sunday show if we can. Chat, fantastic. Thank you. It's been absolutely fantastic. I love these sort of open chats. Like I say, you've been firing questions at us. I love that. Let's wait until the next June showcase. Like you say, we are going to be doing an after show review or sort of, what do we call it? Reaction, sorry, and we're going to be doing that on Archimedes Box and Burgers channel. So looking forward to that. It's going to be a good bit of a sort of collaboration between us and him. Well, safe gaming, everyone. Hope you enjoy whatever it is you're playing. Thanks for the GPG Crew. We'll say goodbye. Chat, you've been fantastic, and we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.